Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am way too excited about what's happening today. I have already cried like 2 times. First, I just have to start by thanking Palin Anise for that amazing movement and meditation workshop. First of all, let me go back because Samantha just joined us, our beautiful interpreter, Samantha. How good to see you. I was saying that I'm very excited. Today has already been a beautiful day. Starting off with movement and meditation that I didn't even know I needed was so beautiful. I hope you guys feel full. I hope you guys feel warm and open and ready for the rest of the day. I'm not going to lie. This panel right here is what I've been excited about and looking forward to for about a week because I need help with my money. Let me go ahead and get started by introducing our guest for today. Jamila Souffrant is a podcaster, writer, and founder of JourneyToLaunch.com, where she shares her journey to reach financial independence while helping others do the same. Amen. Jamila is considered a go-to financial thought leader in the personal finance field and is the resident financial expert on a weekly segment on News 12, the most watched local TV news station in New York City. It is. And she's been featured in other notable media outlets like Essence, Refinery 29, Money Magazine, CNBC, CBS, Business Insider, and more. Her Journey to Launch podcast was also named one of 27 podcasts you need to start listening to in 2018 by BuzzFeed. Now, this is my favorite part. Jamila and her husband saved $169,000 in 2 years and are debt-free besides their mortgage. I'm going to read that again. Jamila and her husband saved $169,000 in 2 years and are debt-free. She is also a mother of 3 young children and lives in Brooklyn, New York. Please help me welcome Jamila. Woo, Jamila! Hi, Jamila. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Jamila. As you can tell, I'm very excited because I know that you are about to give me the keys to financial freedom, which are the keys that I need. So first of all, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Thank you. I guess it makes the most sense to start with you please telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you even got into finance and teaching in the first place.
Yeah, so, I was someone that was always aware of money, like many of us growing up without a lot of money, right? I am a product of a single mom, immigrant mom, came here from Jamaica. I was actually born in Jamaica. And I say all that because like coming here as an immigrant and then seeing her and my grandmother come here and work their way from the, bottom to where they are now, where they were able to, my grandmother was able to buy a home. My mom came here at 20 with like just high school education and worked her way up. She got her master's eventually and solidified like herself. And so seeing all that really got me into wanting to understand money at a young age. Now, I didn't like really understand it quite honestly, but I meant more like I knew that I wanted to be financially secure. I just didn't know how to go about doing that unless I were to win the lottery or create some huge business. So I had all these dreams and hopes. But honestly, when I started to work full time, so I, went to college, got a good job, kind of followed all the steps. And I had dreams of like taking over the world. I just didn't know how to do it. So I kind of resigned myself to, I guess everyone works until, they're old and gray and jobs they don't like just to pay the bills. And it wasn't until I was in my early 30s and I was on a long commute. I live in Brooklyn. I commuted to New Jersey for my job and I worked in corporate America. And I was pregnant with my first son. And I remember it taking me like 3 or 4 hours that day. And that's not typically a normal day, right? But it was like so bad, the traffic, and I was pregnant. And it was like a wake up call for me because I said, I cannot do this anymore. And it was more of, I can't be in a job that I don't love. I know I wanted to have more kids. I have 3 kids now, but back then, I was pregnant with my first. I wanted more flexibility. I knew I wasn't bringing my talents into the world. And money was the root of why I felt stuck because I felt like I had to work this job to pay all these bills. How else was I going to live like the life of my dreams? So I started to go down this rabbit hole of, Google, how do I quit my job? How do I retire early? Kind of get amen if you've done that before. if you put that in Google before. And I started to read, find out all about these blogs, people blogging about becoming debt free, reaching financial independence, which I had no clue really what that was. Then I started to discover podcasts, which was really good for me because I was still commuting. So for me, listening, my car became my learning center. I would listen to so many podcasts about personal finance and financial independence, learned about this whole new world of people who were, different ranges of types of jobs, right? Like some were high income earners and able to aggressively save to get to their goals. Some were teachers, regular everyday people being more smart with their money so that they could make better decisions, have options, and eventually reach financial independence. So I was like, okay, I need to figure out how to do this. And that's what I did. I started Journey to Launch to chronicle my journey. So I said to myself, I'm going to quit my corporate job by the time I was 40 years old and do whatever I want, right? And I was
And when you started, you were in debt?
Yeah, so all right, I officially kind of, it was a process. So while I was pregnant with my first son in 31, I didn't officially start Journey to Launch till about 33 years old, which is a few years ago now. And so by then I had student loan debt when I graduated from college. I had regular credit card debt, but my husband and I, we typically would pay that off. So luckily we weren't buried with credit card debt, but we had a car note. My husband had a lease at the time, and then we did have our mortgage. So by the time I consciously knew I wanted to reach this place of financial independence, which we can talk about what that means, definitely. I had been on the journey, I just didn't know, which a lot of people are right now. You might not consciously know you're on a personal finance and financial freedom journey, but you're on it, whether you like it or not. And so I was able to, by then, get smarter though. By the time I realized what I needed to do, we paid off the student loan debt. And then what really was the kind of catalyst was being able to save and invest. So, and I want to talk about that for the people, because it's going to depend when you come to this realization that you want something different, you want more. It depends on your starting point, right? And so our starting point, because we were in our early 30s, we were a little bit more established in our careers. My husband is a New York City teacher. I worked in corporate America. That helped because we kind of had the income to help support saving that much money, but we had to change a lot in terms of our habits, our mindset to be able to actually do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so something you said very interesting to me, talking about financial freedom. I don't even know what that means. Let me be honest. When I think of financial freedom, I think of Jay-Z and Beyonce on a yacht. That just means you have so much money that you're free and you can do what you want. That's probably not financial freedom. What does financially free? What does that even really mean? And how do we even start to even try to work towards financial freedom?
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, because that, when you think of it, seems out of touch and out of reach for most people to get to, which it is. Not that you can't do that if that's your dream, go all for it. It's relative. Financial freedom and independence, it's relative to the life that you want to live.
Got it.
And so you may have dreams of having that yacht. And so you're just that's the kind of life I want to lead. So I got to, do things to help me get there. Or it may just mean I want to just be able to do what I love without worrying about bills. That's freedom to me. Or it may be, I'm starting a family and I want to be able to take breaks and be home with my kids. That's freedom. And freedom, you unlock. This is what I love about the journey to financial independence is that, so independence, when I talk about it in this sense, financial independence means you have enough money saved and invested in your retirement portfolio or your investment portfolios that you can live off of that money. And it could be also rental income, whatever type of, passive income, you can live off that money and you don't have to actively work again, which I'm just who doesn't want to have at least that option, right? Where you have enough money spinning off where it pays for your lifestyle. Now, that is a very huge goal. Mm-hmm. But I truly do believe as you go, and set that as your sight, I'm going to save, invest, build a portfolio. As you go to that moon goal, as I like to call it, you have to do so many things on the way. There's getting just aware financially. That's step one. There is getting debt free. That's another step. which can take a while depending on your situation, right? And kind of your starting point. Then it comes to, investing. And instead of putting all your money into savings, what is your investing, look like? So it's starting to educate yourself on the next level steps. And so there's all these little things that you're going to do on your journey to financial independence, which again, seems very lofty and maybe out of touch. But I promise you that once you start the journey, like you have no choice but to up level and get better because of all the other things you have to go through. So even if you fail, I like to say this, even if you fail at attempting this journey and you say, well, I need, based on my lifestyle, after you do the number and you crunch the numbers, I need $1 million to like feel okay in 20 years. And you're like, oh man, like, how am I going to get to $1 million invested and saved in 20 years? But you go after it and you realize in 20 years, I only have 300,000. Now, is the 300,000 the 1 million? No, but is it better than maybe the zero you would have had if you did not start? Right. So that's what I want people and our people to understand is that while it's a lofty goal, one, you actually may hit it, changing some things around and, having that mindset, you may hit it. And even if you don't, you'll be in a better place. So like, I want to like show people how to do that.
Okay. I am already winning. So I want people to understand that Jamila and I had a talk before this because I was very intentional in being like, we can't just bring in any financial advisor. We have to bring in someone who understands artists and financial problems. And one thing I talked to Jamila about was like the actor cycle. Let's just say it looks something like this. This is personal, but it looks something like this. You get a job. Now, before you get this job, you've been unemployed for 6 months. So you got this ballin' new job and you're like, okay, so this first month of money is going to go towards paying back everybody I took out money from, everybody who sent me $25 Venmo because I couldn't eat or get on the train. That's the first month of money. It's just paying back all those months of rent you couldn't pay. You're just trying to give back to people who have given to you. Then you're like, in that second month, I have a list of things in my phone that I said I'm going to buy when I get some money, not a Birkin bag, but just like I'm gonna fix my car or I'm gonna buy a chair for my house. And then in that third month, you're like, okay, self-care, let me get a mani-pedi, let me go get a massage, let me go get a piece of salmon from Whole Foods. And then in that fourth month, you're like, okay, now I'm finna save. And then your show closes in that fourth month. So you have made nothing, saved nothing, and now you're back to unemployment. I think actors, we're always on one side or the other of that kind of spectrum. So for me today, I'm like, where do we start? I'm here, we're in a pandemic. Most of us actors know we are not going back to work until 2021. What can we be doing now? How can we start our journey towards financial freedom?
Okay, so I think step one is just being here in an event like this, understanding that this is normal, and there's no shame in this cycle, that you are working with what you got.
Yes.
And that surviving is thriving. Like it's kind of like we all want to get to our goals faster. We all want to pay off debt, like do all these things. But we are constrained to our circumstances, except for that you can, there's some things outside of your control, right? But what can you control? So understanding this cycle that you guys are in, it's also just realizing too that survival mode means being able to pay for your necessary expenses. That's one, right? So if you're not in the position to be able to do that, because or you're not positioned to be able to like get ahead financially right now because you are, paying for rent or having to eat, there's no shame in that. So that's one, right? But for those who maybe like feel like they can get like a foot in and there's more, I'd say now like there is a reprieve right now due to the pandemic on certain expenses that you like have, right? So if you happen to have like a mortgage right now, there is like laws in place that you can't like get it foreclosed upon if you can't pay your mortgage. For example, I own like a rental property that we don't have a tenant in now because his income was affected. So I called my mortgage place up and I said, hey, can we pause mortgage payments? And so mortgage places are offering that. And for 3 months, they're pausing payments and it's not adding to my interest. It's just going to be tacked on to the end. Same thing if you're a renter, right? Most likely, maybe you are a renter and you're in this situation now where you can't. So I'm saying all these things because these are usually your biggest line items in your budget, in the way you spend your money.
Yes.
So if you can put a pause, especially now that you have these protections in place where you actually, if you can speak to your landlord, if they have that option of delaying their mortgage payment, and then you can have the option of working out something on the back end where maybe you pause rent payments right now because things are so dire and tight for you. Mm-hmm. And then work out something with your landlord when maybe at the back end you pay, because you're not relieved of those payments forever. It's not like they go away, but maybe you work out something where, you add the 3 months at the end of the lease to pay, but for now, right? So I'm saying, like, in terms of just tactical survival strategy right now, if you can talk to your landlord, or if you have a mortgage, and put pauses on like something like your rent right now, so that money that you would have spent can go into your emergency fund. That's key, because right now the biggest thing I'm hearing when you have this cycle is that when the money is not coming in, you need income. You need ways to pay for your life so that you're not consistently going into debt.
Yes.
So there needs to be a buffer or emergency fund. Like, that should be number one. So I understand wanting to get current with your debt and pay off debt. Like, yes, important. You don't want to go further, and if you can avoid it. But getting an emergency fund. So if you're maybe if you predict, kind of based on how your acting schedule works, that you typically are out of work every 3 months or 4 months, what are your living expenses? Calculate that. What, like the rent, groceries, like bare bones, there's like 2 budgets that everyone kind of has. There's kind of like the bare bones where it's like, you need this to live. And then there are the extra ones where we talked about that include the self-care, which for some people that's necessary, right? Because like that's mental is really important too, right? Keeping yourself up, and especially in your industry, honestly, right? So you can figure out, okay, it takes me, I need $3,000 or $4,000 a month to live. And so if I'm out of work for 3 months, that means I would need like a 3 times 3, 9,000 or 12,000 if you do 4,000 a month emergency fund. Now that's a lot of money, right? And so it's like, so the point there now is, how can you start to build and get to an emergency fund like that? Some of it will, like, if you can be lucky enough to have a landlord that can work with you, that you can have, like, you don't have to send money to rent, and you can put that to the emergency fund for the next down the line 3 months, that can help. Yes. If you don't have a landlord like that, or if that's not help, like, you can't do that. Other ways are, it's going to take like looking at your money and budget, like the outflow of expenses. And I know it sucks because it already feels like you're sacrificing so much, to think that now you have to sacrifice more again, like take more things out when you probably are already doing, the best you can, is to really sit down and look at what's going out. Really sit down and see, okay, is there something that, I'm just going to have to like get through this for the next 6 months, cut it out. And because of that, I'll be this amount closer to my goal. And maybe if you have friends within the industry and you're going through this together, create accountability groups for that, and like support groups, because it's not easy to make these changes.
Love. Okay. So excited. I already feel smarter. So that 169,000 just sounds like my mind is blown. Can you talk to us through, you and your husband sit down, you come up with a plan, I guess, and did you consider yourself a financial planner at that moment when you guys started to save, or were you like learning on the job?
Yeah, so I do want to, I'm not a financial, certified, financial planner, a CFP. So that's someone who has, they go through designations and they are fiduciary to your, investment needs. They can advise you that way. This is really all just, self-taught. Okay. And I'm not an advisor to tell people, where to invest. So when I started my journey, it was literally listening to the podcast, reading the blogs, seeing what worked for other people, learning on my own, and then kind of, mapping out my journey. Okay. I do want to be clear, because I know that number for some is kind of first of all, girl, I don't even make, that's unrealistic, right? And I get it. That how much we saved and invested was a function of our income. And we were high earners at that time. Now I'm an entrepreneur and we're not high earners, right? So I quit my job. So I'm kind of more in your space where my income fluctuates so much now because of kind of being a full-time entrepreneur. But then, as a function of our income, we were able to save that much. And I always say that was what we were able to do based on our income and our circumstances. Don't feel discouraged if you don't have the income to be able to do something like that. Right? Everything is relative. So if you were saving and investing nothing before, but now you can save and invest $100 a month based on your circumstance, that's a win.
So basically, we need to come up with something tangible. Like if each week I just put aside $25 or 100 or 50, just find a number that makes sense for your finances.
Yes, and it should stress you, like, you know, that we what and this I think applies to no matter how much you're bringing in. Is that I looked at saving and investing first as the like, and if you have debt and that's your like priority, but like what in your case maybe the emergency fund is your priority because you don't have one. Like that was like main goal number one. Okay. And so as long as we could pay our living expenses, like the mortgage and the rent, well, the mortgage and then like food and things for the kids, everything else was kind of like on the chopping block because we set in our mind already that we were going to max out every retirement account possible for us. And we're going to invest this much. Okay. And then what was left, pay the necessary bills. And if there was anything left after that, then we could have fun because we were so focused on that goal. So I would say for anyone listening, like you want to stretch yourself. So when we did that, it definitely stretched ourselves. Like I even said to my husband, like, if this is too much, like, you know, we're saving and investing too much and we're not like, this life is not like something we're enjoying, we can pull back. And that's the other thing. So if you find that you say, all right, I'm going to like $25 a week. I'm going to find 25 or 50, stretch yourself. So it's a little like, you know, whoa, you gotta make some adjustments, but make that your goal. And like, you cannot like, that is what it is. And it's not about just like that. It's a small amount. That's not a small amount for a lot of people. It's the habit that you're building. Because when you get the job, and maybe now, you know, when you don't have like the bigger or higher income and the more steady job, it is only $20 or $10 you can do. But then when you get the job, you can do way more, right? So you're just building that habit so that when the money does come, it's now it's like, all right, I already have the habit ingrained. Now I can do a little bit more since it's just something I'm doing.
Okay. So during your saving journey, were there any challenges, pitfalls, things that you look back and go, whoo, child, we almost didn't make it through? Or was it like we just saved and it was smooth?
No, you know, I think it's interesting because like I said, I feel like I can more relate to probably now the cycle that you talk about because I quit my job when I had my third child because I was like, I want to enjoy, you know, and the kids, but I also want to like, I don't want to be in that car all the time. So when I was working and that money was kind of guaranteed and our income was way higher, budgeting and saving and investing, like that was more exciting. It was because the money was there. Okay. I would say now as like being realistic, and this is why I think it's so hard for people with the inconsistent income or that don't have like the higher income to feel motivated, which I get is because when you sit down and look at your financial situation, it's not as like, oh, we have all this money coming in. There's so many places we can put it, right? Like that, I think for a lot of people is where they kind of get like, I just don't want to see it. Like it's just too much. It's overwhelming. And so I would like to say, if you're feeling that way, is that that is just part of the journey. It's like that roadblock that, you know, it's so many things that are just like you guys are on your journey. Like there's so many things that will tell you no or discourage you. But if you keep going, eventually you'll get there. And I think that same thing with your money and saving. It's not always going to feel great. You're not always going to want to do it. Sometimes you have to set up systems in place so that it's automatic. So if you could do an automatic transfer to that savings account or to that Roth IRA or investing account, do that. You know, take yourself out of it as much as possible for the days you don't feel like doing it. Yes. Surround yourself with people because again, it's not always going to feel like you want to do it. So you got to create an environment where saving and getting better at this is the norm. Not where it's abnormal, but where it's just like, this is what we do. Yeah. And so you're just like, all right, I got to get, you know. And so I feel like these are the things that worked back then, like when I did have the income at the point and work now for me. It's just like, and which will hopefully, if you think about it for yourselves right now, can work for you, which is like literally make things automatic, set up systems that kind of put the habits, you know, help you with your habits and encouraging that. And then surrounding yourself with the environment that saving, getting better at your debt that's the journey you're on.
I love that. Question. I know you said everything is personal, but is there an order that we should attack certain things? Like, for instance, there's credit card debt, there's student loan, there's emergency fund. I think for everybody on here, those are the three biggest. Now, I know I personally don't have any credit cards and I don't have any student loans because he said high and look low and I got a scholarship. But I know that interest and things start accruing. So it's like, well, should I attack the things that are going to increase first? I know I need my emergency fund, but I don't want that number to start increasing. Is there a way or a certain order we should attack those things, or just what makes the most sense for your money?
Yeah, all that, all that. But no, I think so specific to this time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to keep, because we know just being like having it be relevant to what's happening now with the pandemic. If you have student loans right now, there is a pause on having to pay federal student loans.
Okay, y'all listening?
Federal student loans, not private student loans. But even though the private lenders are working with you, but I think I have to look up when, I think it's September 30th. You don't have to pay your federal student loans if you have federal student loans until September 30th. You're not going to get penalized. The interest will not accrue, like it stops. And I'm not sure, I have to double check if you have to like call, but if you, so let's just say you're paying student loans, federal student loans right now, and you can pause that and stop and send that money. Now, if you can afford to do everything still, continue with your life. If you have an emergency fund already and you're good. But if you are struggling to try to get ahead on that emergency fund and you happen to have a federal student loan, you can pause that payment. And then instead of taking that money to the payment that you would have sent, you send it to your student loan. Then when things maybe get back to so I know for you guys, it's going to take longer, but then in September, you can decide, okay, what do I do with that money that I saved up, right? So that's ways to get ahead. Even with your credit card, even credit card companies are working with people. Okay. And you can pause, right? And just, you call them, but make sure they're not, tacking on any more interest to that. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying these things as if you currently are in kind of like dire need and you need that income that you would have sent to your debt, that you can put that now to your emergency fund and then reassess again. Got it. If maybe you can still pay these things, the things that you want to look at first are the highest interest rate debts, which are typically the credit cards. The student loans, like honestly, some student loans are the size of a mortgage and will take a while, right? Especially if you don't have like the income to support getting it down. So I'd say when it comes to like the order of operations for your finances, definitely an emergency fund is important. Having something, because if you don't have an emergency fund and then things happen, then you gotta, you're going back into debt.
Or you gotta start stripping. Amen.
Right. Something. So I think, getting that emergency fund together, which again can take a while paying at least the minimum on your debts, right? So, so that you're not getting behind in your debts would be like kind of like step one for everyone. And then assessing how long it's going to take you, because you can like sit down, get a full account of your finances. So that's the other step for everyone to do, is to like literally schedule in your calendar and like get that whatever you need to get you a drink or whatever. Look at your finances, like take inventory. What's coming in? Like, when does it come in? If it comes in, what's going out? That's your budget. Who do you owe? List it all out. What are the interest rates? What are the remaining balances? What do you own? What are your investment accounts? What are the logins? That might take you a whole week to do, but sit down and like get an inventory of everything. So that way, okay, so this credit card debt is 30%. Like some people don't even know which card is what percentage. And so I need to, when it comes to which debt to pay off, because that's the highest interest rate, maybe I focus there first, but you won't know that until you know all your stuff, right? Yeah. So, I think you have to sit down and know your inventory of what's going on first before you can make a decision. But usually it's your highest interest rate debt. But I say too, focus on the emergency fund, because if you don't have that together, you're going to be starting again from scratch when something happens.
Got it. Learning, loving it. Next question, as we switch interpreters. So investing, can we talk about that? Because when I think of investment, I think like, oh, I'm gonna buy a Netflix stock or a Starbucks stock, just because those are big fancy chains that people go to a lot. But I don't actually know, and don't get into the letters, the IRA and the PB&J. I have no idea. So can you give us like the beginner's guide to what investment looks like, and when is the right time to start investing?
Okay, so the best time to start investing is like yesterday, but the next best time is today. And it's funny because I know like the word itself, I think, the industry is set up in a way in which it seems so foreign and complicated to you, like, and so you think like you're not a part of it, right?
Yeah.
You currently, I don't know how many people kind of like have jobs on the side or kind of have like used to have a job, so they have an old 401k or have some sort of IRA or IRA. These are all types of retirement investing accounts, because that's the most typical that people can have access to if they work traditionally.
Yes.
That you actually are if you have one of those accounts, you're already an investor. You may not feel like that, but you are. You are. And it doesn't have to be, not everyone needs to like sit down like and cherry pick stocks and read stock charts.
Okay.
And I don't do that. I don't have the time. Like, I don't have the interest, honestly, to do it that way. So I would say, like, one, if you already have an account like that, you're already an investor. So like take that title.
Check.
It's more about understanding the type of account you have, if you have one already, and then what you can have. Let's say you have nothing and now you want to start. Okay, what are my available options? And looking into that. But really, it's literally like, think about investing as, you know, if you have $20 and you keep it, you don't even put it in the bank. You just keep it under your like mattress. Like, that money is actually losing value over time because of inflation. So inflation, like, you know, that's when milk cost 20 cents back in the day, and now it costs $5.
Jesus.
That's because the value of the dollar, right? What you can buy with your money, like the value of how much you can get is like lessens because of inflation. Okay. So when you don't put your money in a bank or an investment account to grow, it loses value. So 20 years from now, that $20 that you have under your mattress can't buy the same thing that it bought, like it would have been able to buy now.
Right.
When you save, right? So you save in a traditional savings account, like, you know, one of the bigger banks, Chase, Bank of America, and a regular account, like the saving rate on that is 0.01%. So you're also not getting very much return on that. But it's safe for the most part, right? You know that you can go there. It's not going to be affected by some market crash. You can go get your money. So when we talk about emergency funds, like, you know, and things you need to pay for immediately, like people are mostly going to talk about savings accounts.
Right.
Then I'm going to do some levels here so you can see the value of investing and why it's so important to understand. So the next level, that would be a high yield online savings account. So it's like some traditional banks have them, but it's usually like these online banks where instead of a 0.01% return on your money, you can get like a 2-point-something% return on your money. So it's way better than a traditional savings account. At least your money is growing almost in lock with inflation. Okay. So your money is not like it's not like earning massive money, but it's like keeping up like with the inflation a bit, because inflation is about like 3% typically. Okay. Investing, now that's where wealth is built, right? Because when you invest your money, but it grows over time at a higher percentage rate. So let's just say, like, if you look back at like the history of the stock market, like I think the return, like, don't quote me because I don't remember it right now, but let's just say like average return, you get 6% over a span of 20 years, because there's going to be highs and there's going to be lows. So you average it out, like you can get 12% return one month and then like 2% another month because it's going crazy, right? So let's say average is 6%. So think about that same $20, you know, like invested that 6% over time. That's what gets you ahead, because it's beating inflation. So it's the value is going up, compound interest. And this is where like the people like the Beyoncés and Jay-Z's of the world, like their money makes money when they're sleeping, because it's earning interest upon one another. Got it. That's why investing is such an important like concept and skill that we need to become more aware of, because our money sitting in savings accounts or under our bed is not growing on our behalf. It's just kind of sitting still or losing value. So investing is that's how you get ahead. That's how your money grows over time. So that $20 becomes $100,000 in 20 years.
Got it. And I know for a lot of artists, we are trying to get to the point where we can invest in ourselves, if that makes sense. Like the biggest job that I had, I considered investing in myself. Like, I've never had an apartment in New York that was mine, and I want to start creating my own work. So I'm going to take this $20K and I'm going to write a film, and knowing that the return on the investment won't be immediate, but if I'm starting to be a creator and a producer, it's setting myself up to make more money going down the line. So I think we also as actors have to look at, there's different ways that we invest.
And listen, it's a risk, right? Everything is a risk. So, and I'm big on investing in yourself and betting on yourself and taking that risk. So I know you guys got to do that every day. Like, it's kind of like believing in yourself to the point where it's just like, I am going to take this 10, 15,000 and invest it in a project. I have no clue how it's going to turn out, but what else, like, I'm just going to create these opportunities for myself. So I think you can still do those things, but then still find ways to traditionally invest for your future. Because even if, again, it's just $5, $10, $15, like in a Roth IRA that you can open up on your own, you don't need to be associated with a company. You can go and open this up at like a investment, like online bank or account. So like a Vanguard. I'm not an affiliate for them, but like Vanguard, right? Where you can open up a Roth IRA and it's tax advantage for you. So you're investing with after tax money. So this is the money you get from after you get your show money and the government takes his money out, or, you would then take that $20 and put it in your Roth IRA. When you put that money in your Roth IRA, you can choose now how you invest it. So yeah, you can select individual stocks if you want to do that. That's fine. Or you can look into something like an index fund. So an index fund is more following the broad market. So you can invest, instead of just investing in one stock on the stock exchange, like you're investing in all of them. So it kind of just follows the market. So market goes up, your value of your index fund goes up, goes down, it goes down. But you're not having to like try to pick a company to beat the market. You're just riding the market wave. Yes. And you still do well that way because you're averaging what the money, what the market return. So I say all that to say it's just like you can literally start with $5 or $10 while you still are, working on your projects and investing in yourself and mentally and, your emotional health. You can still find that $5, $10, $15, $20 when you don't have the income coming in to put in like a Roth IRA or a taxable investing account that can grow over time.
Got it. This is great. I want to remind everyone, if you have any questions, please throw them in the chat. I'm going to take the last 10 minutes and just throw all your questions to Jamila, but I just want to remind you, please send your questions to the chat. Okay. Next on my list is credit. I know nothing. So I know probably a lot of these people on this Zoom StreamYard are at that point of like, I might want to buy a house one day. I just need to get better with my credit. I'm trying to fix everything. And I want to cover as much as we can in this hour. Yeah. So credit, emergency fund, investing. Now, where does credit, cleaning up credit, establishing credit, where does that fall in our order of operations?
So I want to say you can do this in tandem, but I don't want people to get overwhelmed like, oh, great, another thing to add on my list of things to do. But you can do it in tandem. It depends on where you are, right? Like credit is important, but it's really more important when you're like getting ready to purchase something. And having access to credit is important regardless, because God forbid if you do get into a bind and you need money and you don't have the savings, like if something happens where I need to for my kids or us to live, like I'm going to use the credit that I have. If we have no cash, I'm going to use the credit, like our available credit to survive. Right. So you do need access to it as a backup plan. But that's why you want to make sure you have your cash flow together, your emergency fund first, so you don't have to resort to credit. But listen, if you need to resort to credit because that's the only way you can survive, no shame in that, except for you just, you're working your way through it. So it is important, but it's more important if you're like, okay, I'm getting ready to buy a house. I'm getting ready to buy a car, because if you don't have good credit, you're going to get charged more for the same loan that's someone that has good credit. So you end up paying more. And that's the cycle, unfortunately, that a lot of people in poverty and working class poor people, they're more dings, and it's more harder to get ahead because you pay so much more, right? It's like the celebrities don't pay for their things. They get it for free. And then the people who want to be like them have to pay, actually have to pay the money, right? Like Gucci's not giving, well, not that you want to use Gucci, but as an example, but so same thing with the credit. It's kind of like the people who actually need the credit, like they're paying the most for it because maybe their credit scores are not good. So the one thing that due to all this craziness in the pandemic and the CARES Act is that you have access to all three of your the credit bureaus. They usually only gave you your credit reports once a year for free. Now they're giving all three weekly. You can get your credit reports through April 2021. So you can go to annualcreditreport.com and That's the official site. And you'll be able to like download from the official 3 credit bureaus your credit score. So that's like step 1 is to find out what they are.
Thank you.
Step 1. I mean, now you have the access to like check it more often. It's not going to ding you. Like it's available for you to check. And then you can kind of just see, okay, where am I? Like, and what's on my credit? Like if I have some things I forgot to pay, slipped away, how can I start to rebuild that? Right. You're going to have to, start reaching out to the collection agencies. I mean, they're probably reaching out to you already, and talk through like what the options are for you to get current. And so the credit journey, if you really are behind or, it's low, it can take a little time, but it's not impossible. Okay. It's not like one of those things where once it's low forever. You can fight back and get that higher again.
Got it. Okay. Question about credit. Because no tea, no shade to my mother. But my mom used to always say, okay, here's what you do. You get a credit card, you go to the store, you buy something like a bracelet, and you go home, you pay it off, and you cut the credit card up. And I was like, Ma, I don't know if that's how it works. So, because she wanted me to establish a line of credit. I don't have any credit cards. My Jeep that I drive, I own. I don't have any student debt. So I think she's trying to help me establish a line of credit, but I just don't know if that is the right way to do it. Have you heard of that? Does that sound wrong? No shade to my mother. It's fine.
Yeah, no, everyone's working with the best they can, right? So no shade to your mom. So honestly, with that, like there's multiple components that go into your credit score. One of them is the length of like your credit. Like that. So if you don't have like a long credit, so the longer you have accounts open, the better.
Okay.
But they're actually factoring that in. So if you keep probably opening and closing and it only shows you only have the account for a month or 2, that's not really helping to bring your credit up. So you typically, like the longer you have a credit card open, like that's actually helping towards your score, or the utilization rate, right? There are all these things that are a part of it. So it's like, if you're not over a percent in utilization, meaning if you have $1,000 limit, but you're always under like 800, like there's an 80-20, I believe, rule. That I'm not too sure about that percentage, but I'm just saying like these are the things that help go into your score. Utilization, the age of your credit, all these things, like if you're current. So it's not just like one thing. But no, I wouldn't recommend that anyone like just opens card, like pay for something and then close it, because then you're not establishing like a long credit history. They want like the whole point is they want to make sure that you're going to be around to pay, and that you have shown you are a trustworthy borrower. So you're going to do that over time and your history of payments and all of that. So that's not the best way to do it, but I can see why like she thought that was, because she probably was like
buying yachts and things.
Right. She was just probably like, oh, I don't want to use this again and be in trouble. Whereas like you could literally just put it down and not use, like you put it in a drawer and like not look at it again. If that's kind of like, if you're tempted in that way.
Gotcha. She's trying to make sure I have self-restraint and I'm not out here cruising. Okay. Personnel is what I wrote down. Do you suggest artists work with a financial planner or advisor, or are you more of like, there's so many podcasts and so many books? What do you think we need?
I think you should know thyself. I think you know thyself and understanding like how you work, how you learn, how you're motivated. There's a lot of DIY. Like I DIY it myself. Like I have an accountant. I have someone who does my taxes. Who helps me like, figure out the best ways to get the most bang for my buck at the end of the year. I don't have an advisor myself, but it doesn't mean that I won't get one, depending on how much my income is in a couple of years or how much assets we have. That might be still something I do. So I don't account it out. I think there's value in them. Find a fiduciary, someone who's not going to make money from them selling you a product. Their first line of priority is you. Because, sometimes it's like you'll talk to someone, maybe an insurance agent, and they're making money off the sale. That's why they're recommending you the product. And that's not necessarily the best, because you want someone who's going to be able to advise you for what's good for you, not what's good for their pocket, because they're getting a commission. So I don't think it's like a bad thing. I think a lot of it too is just like self understanding, because even if you get an advisor or a coach, right? Like I'm not an advisor, but like I'm more in the coaching space where I can like coach people to their goals and, coach them through certain areas, right? And it's habits, mindset, budgeting, all that I can help with. But you're going to want to understand all those things on your own anyway, even if you do get an advisor. So I think self-education through, even if like there's so many online free resources, likes the podcast.
I mean, because we're all subscribing to Journey to Launch as soon
yes,
as
aren't you? But I think there's and I know that's overwhelming too, honestly. Like sometimes it's just too much. Like, come on, like, yeah, you can just Google how to budget and there's like a million things that come up and you're just like, all right, I don't know, right? But there's so much out there that if you are ready and serious about it, that you can at least start to educate yourself about like how to start. So that way, when it's time for you to select a coach or an advisor, because you know thyself, you might be someone that's just like me. I can't really work out on my own because I just feel like I'm just going to lay down. I'm not going to do this next push-up. I need someone to tell me what to do, kind of like when it comes to working out. I know myself. Same thing with some people with money. It's like, I need an accountability. I need someone who's telling me and helping me figure out this versus by myself. I've been trying to do this for myself for the last like 5 years and I haven't done anything yet, right? So know thyself and how you work best. But then also make sure you're still educated to know when the person is like, telling you the right thing, or you can make educated decisions.
Love that. This just popped into my mind. Can you tell me about, once you saved that $169,000, what did it look like moving forward? Like in my mind, you went from like ramen to like Maine lobster and popping bottles. And I know that's not real, but did you like allow yourself to breathe a little bit, or everything that you were practicing to get out of debt, you like kept going?
So I think this is all right. When I started Journey to Launch, and I was getting all inspired by these people on it was like teachers. Like I remember listening to teachers like becoming millionaires after 20 years. And I'm like, how? Like if they could do this, I could do this. And so that's why we aggressively started saving. And again, our income helped like do that. I was working in corporate America. But honestly, this is why I think everyone should start the journey to financial independence, because when I started and we had the income and we were able to aggressively save. And by the way, a lot of that money went into retirement investing accounts. Okay. So tax advantage retirement accounts. It's not like we have 169,000 sitting in our savings account. It went to like, my 401k, my husband as a teacher. So this is the thing, as a teacher, if you know any teachers and they have the income to support it, you can invest in 2 pre-tax retirement accounts. So he had a 403b and a 457. And I'm sorry if I'm throwing out like all these, like just write it down. And, like,
1, 2, 3.
And so we had so much space that we could invest in these retirement accounts that helped our income. So that's the other thing that rich people do. They use the tax code to their advantage. So we were able to lower our taxable income because we invested so much money in retirement accounts. So what happened was those first 2 years, we were able to do that. Got pregnant with my daughter on the 3rd year of the journey. And I knew immediately, because I started Journey to Launch by then, that I did not want to go back to work after my maternity leave. I was like, Journey to Launch, like it's making an impact. It's doing so well. I want to figure out a way to do this full time and give myself a chance to try it out. And so that 3rd year, instead of saving all that money to retirement accounts and investing accounts, we saved up enough so that I could do this full time. Like, because literally my husband's income it does not cover our expenses. So I think that's another thing on the journey, right? It's like, it can change. Like when I first started, I thought I was going to like just work and grit it, like just for the next 7 years, even though it was like soul crushing a bit, work and get the money. And in 7 years, I could reach all our goals. But then I started the journey. I was like, oh, it's not worth it. It's not worth the next 5 years of my life, like not being happy and stressed out. So I pivoted and I changed the way when I say I, but we had to agree on this, that I was going to give up that 6-figure income and guaranteed money for a peace of mind. And the only reason I was able to do that was because I got into this journey. And so we ended up saving enough to where it could help cover our expenses without me worrying about like Journey to Launch making money. Got it. And that's kind of like the stage we're in now. So it's almost just like going through these steps, even though we're not financially independent yet. I have a level of freedom that I wasn't able to have before starting the journey. So that's kind of like the encouragement I give to everyone, where if you set your goal and it seems so huge, but then you're just like, what's the point of starting? Like there is a point, because each debt you pay down, each habit you create that helps you save more, each podcast you listen to that makes you, learn a new concept, like that all is building blocks to your next opportunity, to the next option you can then take.
Awesome. We're going to take a couple audience questions. Yeah. Miss Wade, Kiara Wade says, what's the best way to invest while riding the wave of a recession? Yeah. So if you're able to still invest now,
it's a great time. I know it's scary because like one day the market's up, one day it's down. But there are a lot of the last like 2008 recession, like a lot of millionaires were made then when you invested at the down and like everything rebounded. And that's the thing, like unless aliens come to collect us, which I won't count on at this point. Typically the stock market, even if it crashes, it goes back up. You only lose money when you sell. That's when you lose the money. So as long as you can stay within it and ride it out, like if you have money to invest, it's really just investing that over time. So like, don't get scared and say, I'm not going to invest my $10 this week because the market is that. Just keep on doing it. Because over time, it's going to bounce back. It's going to be worth more than it was 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. That's just how the market has worked and will continue to most likely work. So just whatever you're doing, if you're already investing, it's more just like keep doing that if you're able to. If you have extra money that you can invest more, do that too. Because again, that's more money you're putting into the market that can grow.
Got it. Ayana Reed says, are there any specific tax filing info things regarding being an actor or independent contractor that you could talk to us about?
I don't have any like specific, things. I mean, I think, being aware of like for me, having a business, so having a personal budget and a business budget is important. Right. And so some people like kind of, even if they're good at the personal budget, the business budget is not something they're taking in account of. So, even if you're not hiring someone to do your business money, it's kind of like it's separated in another account. You're keeping track of who you are working. If you're working with other contractors, you're keeping track of that. Like you're organized, and they have like, apps that are not as expensive to help you do that as just like a contractor. And then if you can work with, if you don't know the tax code yourself, like, a good investment maybe is to hire someone that at tax time can help you make sure that you're taking advantage of any write-offs or things that can help you, that they're earning their money because they're helping you save the money at tax time. So I would say like invest in that tax person that can help you figure out like the best tax strategy.
Perfect. Okay. My co-founder, Jocelyn Bio, says we have a question she's going to put on the screen because it's super long. So I'm going to do, here we go. Can you touch on some pitfalls of investments and what to do if or when you lose money on your investments? Sometimes it's inevitable. What's the best way to bounce back? From Chelsea Freeman. Hey, girl, that photo is beat.
Yeah, that's a good question, honestly. So, that's like no risk, no reward. And again, if I know there's different types of investments. Like if we're talking about like investing in like the stock market or index investing, it's like, it's not a loss until you sell. So that's why typically you're not investing money you need. You're not investing your emergency fund. Like you're not investing like aggressively. You're not investing your emergency fund or that money that you're about to buy the house with like next week. You want that money to be safe, right? So it's really like, if you can write it out, just let it go and like keep it in, maybe just don't look at it and let it just like bounce back. If it's more like an investment of like you're doing a project or just a house, like, right, like people have lost money on houses. I think it's just one of those things where just understanding those kind of risks when you go in. So if you're about to make those investments, talking to people where not just the people who made it, but what it looked like for the people who didn't, just so you understand what the worst case scenario is. I always think about that. Like if I invest in this thing, whether it's a coach or a program or an investment, worst case, if I lost this all or it doesn't work out, where does that put me? I'm alive, like I can still pay my rent or bills. Okay, then I can consciously say, I'm just going to do this because the outcome to me is worth the risk. Like I rather it work, just like I made the decision about this whole job thing. I was like, okay, worst case, what's going to happen? These are the things, I get a job and at the end of 2 years, whatever. But the best case scenario is so much better. So I think I'd rather that. So I think just when you think of your investments in that way, then it helps you when maybe things aren't going so bad. You say to yourself, well, I'm alive. I'm not, it's not that bad if you kind of thought through it already.
Perfect. Okay. We're in the home stretch. It's the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Jamila, is there anything that you're like, I need to leave you with this, or we forgot to talk about this, or anything in your mind that you just want to make sure that we hear before we log off?
I think we mentioned a lot of it already. I think the biggest thing is understanding that there's no shame, no matter where you are currently right now, there is no shame in it, but that there's a light at the end of the tunnel too. I think like money is such an important fabric of all our lives. Like it really is what drives us to do everything. And so understanding it, even if it's just awareness of where you are, it's a huge step. And don't belittle those steps. Don't think, oh, it's not enough. I'm not going to save 169 a year. What's the point? Like, no. Like, you'd be surprised how things, how much, not faster, because I don't want to say like things are just going to go fast for people. But when you take that first step, even if it's small, even if it's just creating the habit, even if it's listening, changing your mindset, following some accounts that inspire you, like to learn more, like that goes a long way. Those have compounding effects too, not just money. Money is not the only thing that compounds over time.
Yes.
The little decisions that you're making, showing up here, investing in yourself in little ways, like reading the book, all those things matter and they compound over time. So I just want to like leave people with that no matter where you are, in whatever position you're in, like you can get to a better place. You just have to start.
I'm going to do a personal recap for myself, because the first thing we got to work on, y'all, is we got to get our accountability partners. That really spoke to me, because I'm not, when it comes to like working out, I need to go to a gym and I need somebody to yell at me. I'm not going to do it at my house. I know, you know thyself. So I want everybody in the chat, if you see somebody in the chat that you know, sis, let's get our accountability going and let's work on our emergency fund, sis. Let's start saving all the alphabets, the Roth IRA. A lot of people I saw put up names of apps that they use online. They'll Stash, somebody Acorn. I saw that.
There's something they call YNAB. So I use that personally to help with budgeting.
Okay.
So there's so many apps, that there are out there to make this a little bit easier and that you can try. And again, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like the accountability partner you can do things like, all right, this week we're going to take inventory. Let's just, by the end of the week, and you don't have to share your numbers, you don't have to. It could be more just like, if you're comfortable in that way, fine. More power to you. Cause I think that's the other thing, like within the space, like when it's a free market, like sharing numbers actually helps, like, cause then, but let's just say you're not comfortable. You can just say, okay, task related. Did you, write down all your account passwords and do you know where all this is? All right, did that. Next step, budget. Let's check out some budgeting apps. All right. Like you can kind of set, do like little challenges like that with each other. Like make sure that you're sticking to it.
Love. We're doing that. We're looking into investing. We're looking at high yield online savings accounts. I have so many. First of all, I just want to tell you, I feel like a genius right now. I feel, first of all, like a millionaire. I don't got no money, but I feel rich. Ha, that's a word. I feel rich in knowledge and in spirit, which is going to manifest into money. Hallelujah. Jamila, before we get off, tell everybody where they can find you, follow you. Do you have a book we can buy? Just all the things.
I wish I had a book.
Okay, it's coming.
That's on my vision board. A book. I want to write a book one day. But the best place, so you can go to journeytolaunch.com. But the best place is the podcast if you want to learn, if you're an audio learner. And we started to transcribe the most recent podcast, and we're going to probably try to go back. So for people who need that access, and maybe you're not an audio person, you just want to read, you could do that. But it can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, on the website. Just type in Journey to Launch. And
number 2 or T-O?
T-O. And make sure you're subscribed. It's free. So and it's just information you can receive. There's tons of episodes you can go through by topic to see kind of like, okay, what speaks to you first. And then also so I created a guide for people just in case like they're new to everything. It was like, all right, I don't know where to start with a podcast or with my journey. So I did create a free guide that you can, if you text launch to 33777, you can get. So launch to 33777 and you get the guide. And it just breaks down like where to start with the podcast, most top downloaded episodes, the stages of the financial freedom journey. So I think that's a good place for people. And then I'm on social media at Journey to Launch on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
I just typed launch to 33777. So I just hope y'all type.
Did it go through?
It's going through right now.
Okay.
Reply with your email address and the free journey or jumpstart guide from Journey to Launch will be sent straight to your inbox, people. Let's go. Jamila, thank you so much.
Well, it was my pleasure. And I really hope this helped. And I'd love to stay in touch with everyone. Like follow me. So by the way, anyone who's on this journey with me, I call them journeyers. So you all are my journeyers now. We're all journeying on this path together. So let's keep going.
Oh my goodness. This has been so wonderful, Jamila. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Everybody follow, like, subscribe, repost, retweet, follow Journey to Launch, Jamila Souffrant. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
See you later, guys.